Riv and the victorious jungler.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Great cast on the day. I am joined by Immortals Dardoch after their victory over Cloud9 here towards the end of the split. Very much needed win as they head for the playoffs. And I have to ask, we saw some cleanliness on the non-import Lee Sin. Where is this coming back from? Because about 5 weeks ago, there seemed to be some trouble within the play, but you've cleaned it up here coming into these final weeks.
Well, we planned on picking a different character there, but I said I want to play Lee, and my team trusted me, so it kind of boosted my confidence, knowing that my teammates trust me on Lee Sin. After single-handedly losing every game of Lee Sin that we played by myself, so I just had a lot of confidence issues going into. Whenever I played Lee Sin, I would always think about, like, my first time showing it was against Cloud9 in like week 2 or 3 or whatever, and then I kind of killed myself top, and like that thing kind of like stayed with me. Everyone said I was bad at Lee then, so yeah, it was hard, but I'm finally getting back my skill on Lee Sin.
And what do you think kind of changed there? Because second game contracts kind of delivered the same medicine, but you brought it right back into the game. What do you think kind of changed there to allow you to bring that back in and bring your play to power again?
Well, I just made a bad judgment call in game 2, because normally Rengar's weakness is that he falls low in the early clear, but because he had Maokai saplings, he could 3-camp and invade me. And I do that every time I have Maokai Rengar, and I've done it against C9 in scrims, so I guess I just I got what I gave to contracts in scrims. So yeah, he played really well. He snowballed with the lead, and he won alone. He's a pretty beast.
All right, and a few more questions. With playoffs possibly coming up, does scrim change? Does it get more intensive? Do you go to 5 games now? Do you kind of start looking at Cody, Sun, and the rookies and saying these things are going to start happening and this is how to stay in the game?
Our practice has always been pretty relaxed, and like we had a pretty interesting week of scrims this week where we had like different effort levels going in, and we kind of just sat down and we're like, hey guys, we're not even for sure in playoffs. Like, we actually have to beat a bunch of these good teams that we still have to play. So yeah, we're slowly getting there to the point where we're going to try super hard in scrims again.
All right, P1, CLG, and Dig to round out the split. How do you feel about the games? Final question.
I think we'll beat them all.
Fair enough. Easier said than done, but they're going to try to do it anyways. We're going to throw it to the analyst desk to break down that victory.
Thank you, Riv. Still a long road ahead of Immortals here in order to secure that playoff positioning, but this is a good start, right? 2-0, or rather 2-1 victory over Cloud9. Our second place team is going to do a lot in the way of confidence, morale, moving into the final 3 games of the regular season here. And Dardoch, that man on your screen, man, when he's on, he is on.
I mean, this is why he's such a fan favorite starting back like when he finally debuted in the LCS, is he's like a really aggressive jungler, makes huge plays, and then afterwards he's going to talk some smack, and like it just makes you fired up, and like you want to watch more League, you want to watch more of him, you want to hear what he has to say, and so like when he's on, he's one of the best players in the league to watch.
Right, yeah, this time around throwing a compliment over to contracts. That was a little out of the ordinary.
Yeah, only because he won.
Yeah, I was like, oh, because he smashed the series, he can throw that in there.
Yeah, as long as you
12-1 me, but you know what he said? He's like, I gave him what I usually give. He gave me what I usually give him in scrims. I was like, oh,
it's like that compliment where it's like, I usually beat him up, and he learned a little bit from me. So it's still complimenting himself.
That's true. That's very true. But yeah, you can't deny the performance crafted by contracts in game 2. But then, as Riv mentioned there, a total bounce back from Dardoch in game 3, saying, I want the Lee Sin. Let me put the mechanical plays together. And this game really did all start with him. I mean, we saw very early on the level 3 gank to the bot lane that helped kind of turn that around in what was good adaptation by C9 to pull that Karma away along with the Jhin and get some presence back in that lane.
Yeah, but it does feel like the way that they draft is still like a little strange. Like the Gragas first pick is something that feels more like a safety pick than a priority pick. And
right.
if you're doing that for your first rotation without like really weird bans, overall the bans I think were fine. So it is a little surprising to see that, and makes it seem like C9 might not be totally in sync with the meta that is just starting to develop on 7.5.
Right, you think of teams that like really understand the meta well, or seem to have understand the meta well. Whenever a patch hits, there are teams that tend to be ahead of the meta. And right now it seems like Dignitas, first week it came out, right? Lulu Rengar, they're already on top of the Lulu priority. Immortals right now, they're playing Vlad, they're playing Caitlyn Karma. They already know exactly what they want to play. C9 seems like they're still maybe playing a little bit from the old meta, which they were very good on, right? They're like the kings of the old meta. But when stuff changes, like you have to hop on board.
It's the rose-colored glasses, right? They're looking back at that last patch and going, yeah, that's what we smash people on. Let's see what elements of that we can keep, right, and continue to push forward. But you've got to be flexible. That's probably one of the biggest markers of a successful League of Legends pro and team is how flexible are you throughout the ever-changing landscape of League of Legends. I do want to jump into the game itself because following that early level 3 gank in the bot lane, the whole game kind of devolved into that chaos, skirmish environment that we know Immortals thrives in.
Yeah, and look at this team fight. Like, okay, we go into top lane skirmish. Everyone's collapsing. Right now, it looks really clean for Immortals, right? They get the pick, but it's actually a 3v2, and Jensen just goes in way too early. He needs to extend this team fight out as long as possible. Either do one rotation and sit on the ulti and Viz and run around in circles, or open with W and just sit on the ulti. But instead, he kills himself here. And honestly, throughout the game, he showed quite a lot of inexperience with the champion.
And I think really scrappy skirmishes is where your champion mastery shows the most, is you know exactly what your champ can do. In a team fight situation, go in with Talon, blow him up. That's obvious. But what do you do when these kinds of, like, people are coming from every angle, abilities are coming out everywhere?
And to that point, Dardoch on Lee Sin looks comfortable as ever as all of this is happening around him.
Yeah, the king of, like, this guy is so clean on mechanics-wise, and typically in small skirmishes, that's where you really shine.
Yeah, and I think we talked about how C9 kind of getting pulled into Immortals' playstyle. We saw in Game 1 there was all that scrapping and skirmishing around the top side that Immortals came out mostly ahead of. Here, they come out even further ahead with a lot of these. You see, once again, Jensen not using Talon super well there, basically trying to drop his whole combo right at the very beginning, like you said. So, yeah, and Dardoch getting out with almost no help.
Yeah, I mean, the C9 we're used to is the setup plays, right? The ones that you can kind of see a minute or two in advance. You're like, all right, they're going to push out this bot wave. They're going to set that up for a slow push and get the TP flank from Impact or something off of a base recall. But that none of that happened in this game because they were given no room to breathe.
And it's not like Jensen's bad on Assassins. You see his Echo play, I think it's probably the best in the league,
disgusting.
right? But his Talon play right now looks pretty off, and it just shows that he doesn't have that many games on it. And as the patch changes, every major region is picking up Talon right now. And this is going to be like the top tier 80 assassin champion at the moment.
All right, let's look forward here because Immortals now moves to 7 and 8, C9 down to 11 and 4. But for Immortals and their kind of push for the playoff picture, still have left to play Phoenix 1, Dignitas, and CLG as their 3 teams, right? So you're looking at Phoenix 1, who's looking fairly strong here in the last few weeks of the split. And you're looking at Dignitas, right, who seem to be on the rise quite well. And CLG has still managed to pull games off of people in late game scenarios and with the macro shot calling. You know, they seem the most wishy-washy of those 3 teams, but that's still quite the squad of teams that you're going to have to push through here at the end of the split. How are we feeling confidence-wise when it comes to this Immortals squad?
I actually feel pretty good. I mean, at the start of the day, we were talking about FlyQuest versus Immortals, and I think with them beating C9 here, I feel even better about it. They took TSM to 3 games as well. Their early game seems totally electric as long as Dardoch is playing well. This game, I mean, Game 2, it was the contract show, so obviously Dardoch didn't have a chance to perform, but I think as long as Dardoch gets the team off the ground, they actually play pretty well. So I'm not going to say they're going to go 3-0 like Dardoch said.
Right.
I expect them to still lose a couple series here, but I think that they have a pretty good chance of making it into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think at least they'll win one of the 3 series. I think that doesn't secure them 6, but it gives them a really good chance.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll be in the conversation for that. We haven't got all the math worked out just now. Still so many possibilities when it comes to the playoff picture. Final thing here, Dardoch picking up player of the game. That's not going to come as a surprise to anybody with that game. But I think it does hit on a very important thing with Immortals, which is that so much of their success still hinges on his performance individually.
Yeah, and I think, you know, Scar was saying that their lanes are stabilizing more. The bot lane seems to be something like you can play around, but it's not like they win the game on their own. It's like now they have pressured bottom. Maybe we can make more dives happen, or like our mid lane's stable. I can set up ganks for him better.
And I think I've phrased it wrong, or like I've said it throughout the season. I don't really know if it was the right way to say it. I don't think Dardoch being their win condition is a bad thing.
Right.
I think they have an explosive win condition. This is something that a lot of other teams do not have. Teams that wish they had Dardoch, a lot of them do. And so, yeah, sure, maybe he loses you some games here and there, but right now he's winning them a lot more games than usual.
I think the major thing is that if you have an explosive player like that who can both win and lose you games, as he mentioned in the interview himself, he has also been, you know, the sole reason why the team has lost games. When you have stronger lanes, you cover those few instances in which Dardoch does maybe face check or invade too aggressively and give up a kill or two, right? So as the team around him gets stronger, gives him more permission to make the game-changing plays that we've seen more recently.
I think that's a great way to put it, because in the first couple weeks, like, Pobelter was just dead all the time and his bot lane was getting smashed. So when he does go for that one bad invade and die, that might be game-breaking on its own. Now it can happen once or twice maybe because your mid and bot lane are more stable, Flame doing well as well. So overall, just a lot more room to work.
Immortals looking a lot better here in Week 8 and walk away with an upset win over Cloud.